Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Let's Taste with the Intrepid Wino. My name is James Garesbrook, and thank you very much for joining me on this edition. I'm very excited to looking at a winery that I have sort of seen quite a bit of here in Melbourne over the last few years in the wine trade, but I have never really had an opportunity to taste very much from them. One of the things that's excited me is that not only are they working with some Italian varieties, but Italian varieties that you don't really see that much here in Victoria, even though they are very prominent in a couple of the most important regions in Veneto in Italy. So the producer is Freeman. Freeman wines are based in Hilltops in New South Wales, which I believe is not far from Canberra. It is a slightly more cool climate, very well known for their red wines, but I am excited to have a look at these two red wines from Freeman, which have been very generously donated for me to taste. So to start off with, we're looking at the Freeman Rosso 2017, and it is a blend of Corvina and Rondinella. Now these are varieties that go into Valpolicella reds. Valpolicella is a region just immediately north and northwest of Verona in Veneto, and famously is where Amarone is made. Considered to be one of the top red wines from Italy. Certainly can be some of the most expensive wines you can buy in Italy. And these are two varieties that Freeman have been working with for many years. You could almost say that they are pioneers of these Valpolicella grape varieties. So recommended retail price for the Freeman Rosso is $20 Australian, and I'm looking forward to tasting. So based on the kind of the colour and the clarity, it looks quite light. I'm going to guess that this is a sort of a young drinking, light, fresh Valpolicella classical style. Generally Valpolicella classical are very light, not intended for aging, and then you start moving into Superiore, which is riper, more structured, more classic red wine, and then from there you move up into different levels of drying of the grapes. So this, if I were to hazard a guess, just looking at it, is certainly a light Valpolicella classical style. Aromatically, we're looking at red fruits, sort of slightly dried cherry, pomegranate. It's got like a sort of a raspberry aromatic, but it's also quite earthy and a little bit smoky. There's some sort of smoked meats in there, even a bit salty. But there's just a slight kind of candied red fruit character. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Grenache from McLaren Vale. Let's taste. It's fresh, but it's also juicy. It definitely has just a little bit of bite, pomegranate cherry kind of bite. It's got kind of a cola, almost, a cola-y kind of character to it. But the tannins are not too heavy, but they're still got just a little bit of grip there. Yeah, in fact, it really does remind me of McLaren Vale Grenache in that kind of lighter, slightly more nouveau style. I think that's a really lovely red, really good for $20. I think it's certainly an interesting and unexpected expression of these varieties. Very classic blends of varieties from Valpolicella. It doesn't really resemble Valpolicella Rosso for me, to be honest. Maybe some expressions, but a classic expression you'd sort of see more kind of spice and pepper characters, and I'm not really seeing that as much in this red wine. I think that stylistically this is a red wine that could benefit from a little bit of a chill to it. Certainly it is an option for sort of summer drinking, so if you like a nice kind of fresh but juicy red, but you want something that's going to be quite refreshing, just put a very small amount of chill on that one. So good drinking. Again, it's interesting. I'd like to see more vintages to see if that is a fairly typical expression of those varieties for Freeman, or for, to be honest, any producer in Australia. Like I said, I'm unfamiliar with any other producers working with those varieties. The second one we're going to look at is it's certainly much more premium in nature. It's called Robusta. It's on a 2013 vintage, so we are talking 4 years difference here. The recommended retail price for this one is 70 Australian dollars. And according to the label, this is the Freeman sort of stab, I guess, at Amarone style. So I would guess that, yeah, okay, so the grapes have been dried to a certain extent. And drying the grapes basically means that they start to shrivel. The level of water or juice inside the berry reduces, and that concentrates the sugar, so you get a potential higher amount of alcohol. Yeah, look, there is a significant amount of alcohol in here. We're talking 19.6% alcohol. So this is a very robust, ironically, not really, style of red wine. In spite of that, like the wine's still not super. It's not black like you can see sort of Shiraz, for example, from places like the Barossa Valley. It's still not super dark. It kind of does have a slightly kind of pruny sort of colour to it, which also might be a factor of the wine's age, being that it's now almost 5 years old, or more than 5 years old, I should say. Let's have a smell of it. Yeah, it's immediately apparent that this is not only higher alcohol, like it is sort of hitting my nose. It has a very, very porty kind of fortified aromatic compound, and it is going to, I guess, probably confuse people a little bit, because they're going to smell that and think it is a fortified wine, like a vintage port almost. It certainly has pruny kind of characters, really, really ripe sort of plum, black currant, blackberry, blueberry, all the dark berries basically. There's some chocolate, there's some coffee in there. There's a fair amount going on, but the alcohol does sort of hit the nose. So with some trepidation, let's taste. That's quite an incredible wine. The alcohol just hits you. As soon as you swallow, you just get this wave of warmth. But what I like about it is that it's not then kind of combined with really ripe, sort of juby, dark, heavy fruit, and the alcohol. The tannin is not super aggressive. I'm not seeing a lot of oak character there. It's really all about that sort of drying character. The sort of the pruny, walnutty kind of characters come through on the palate as well. Very raisin. The alcohol is a little bit overwhelming, and it is sort of the style of wine that you should actually be sharing it, because I think one glass is probably going to be enough. So it's probably one you would order with a table of other people, because it is pretty powerful stuff. Robust is certainly. I guess it's probably going to again throw people, because when you're talking about that kind of ripeness, people are probably going to be expecting it to be much heavier, richer, more tannic, more fruit, more oak. So the alcohol kind of is probably going to stick out for a lot of people. Recommended retail $70. I think that it's sort of hard to kind of put that sort of wine in context. It's you can't really compare it to something that doesn't exist otherwise in Australia. I mean, probably one of the other examples I know of would be from, I think it's Primo Estate in McLaren Vale. I think they do an Amarone or relatively pastoral style. I think opening it now on a 27-30 degree day here on the Mornington Peninsula, it's probably not the best place to be enjoying this kind of wine, whereas the Rosso is. But I'm sure some of the people that will be having a drink with later on will probably enjoy it significantly. So I think, yeah, for classic palates, it's going to be a different but appealing wine for them. I really love the Rosso. I think that's a beautiful wine. I think it's really delicious. I'd like to see slightly more spice and pepper. I think possibly could be picked a little bit earlier, sort of at finishing up at most 13% alcohol. But I think it's a very solid wine. But thank you very much to Freeman for very generously donating wines for me to taste, and every other winery who is is gracious enough to share some samples for me to share my impressions here on Let's Taste. If you'd like to submit samples to be featured here, please do get in contact with me. You can do that on my website, intrepidwino.com. There's lots of other content there, including my podcast, The Vincast, and please read up on some of the stuff I've done in the past. If you'd like to follow me, you can find me on social media on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. I'm at Intrepid Wino. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share it on social media, leave a comment below. If you're watching it on YouTube, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Lots of different videos there. And if you're watching on Facebook, hit the like button to follow the Intrepid Wino Facebook page. But guys, until next time, cheers.